Testing 1, 2. Testing 1, 2. Is this thing on? Oh yes. Oh, sorry there. I'm not used to these newfangled contraptions. How are you? My name is King George of England. Yes, I am coming back from the past to give you a little video on why I think that the Jewish kingdom is one of the most proper and noble kingdoms that have ever lived. Yes, in doing so, I will describe the events of Vayikra chapter 4. That's right, Vayikra chapter 4. Well, without further ado, let me get right to it. You see, old chaps, Vayikra chapter 4 mentions that if the leaders of the Jewish people commit a sin, you know, like if me, King George, were to commit a sin, well, in the good old days in my country, we would just order everybody to stay mum, stay quiet about it. However, the Jewish people are totally different. Yes, those Jewish people, their God gives them an amazing law of the Torah. Listen to this law. I will describe it to you right now. Please, old chaps, take a careful look. You see, the Jewish people have 4 types of sin offerings. If their Kohen Gadol, their high priest, old man, the greatest one in the land, if he sins, he's got to bring an offering. Not only that, but the Bet Din, the court of Jewish law, the highest in the land, you know, like we have the parliament over there that drive me crazy, not listening to me. Well, though, the highest court in the land, if they commit a sin, an error, they must bring an offering as well. Not only that, even a king like me, King George, well, if King David or King Shaul or any of the Jewish kings were to commit a sin, they would have to bring a sin offering. How undignified that would be considered in England. But the Jewish people, that was very normal. And finally, there was a sin offering for the common folk. If one of the common folk sinned, they would have to bring a sin offering as well. Isn't that amazing? I thought you would think so. By the way, did you know that if you switch to Geico, 15 minutes could save you... Oh, wait a minute, that's a wrong commercial. I'm so sorry. Anyway, back to what I was saying. Really, you've got to know in the events of chapter 4 in Vayikra, King George. Oh, who is that voice? Yeah, this is Rabbi Wagshall speaking. King George, you're getting a little bit off topic. Would you please stay back on the topic? Oh, yes, old man, definitely, I say. Very, very good. Okay, so Vayikra chapter 4. Okay, I'm going to get on the side so you chaps can see what's going on over here. So Vayikra chapter 4. And in Vayikra chapter 4, which... Perek Daled, I believe, in the Hebrew equivalent, that's chapter 4. Let's get into the details of the 4 types of sin offering that were offered. And here we go. I'm going to shrink this down a little bit and take you on a little walk-through tour of this background over here. So first of all, we have the Pa Kohen Gadol, that is the high priest. You know, you see that me next to the high priest over there? Yes, well, in England we don't have high priests. We have dukes and earls and whatnot. But if the high priest was to commit a sin, well, that high priest would have to bring a bull on the altar. And very interesting, that bull was offered inside. They would bring the blood of that bull, bring it inside the building of the Holy Temple. That was very unusual stuff, you see, because usually, besides for Yom Kippur, you know, the blood of the offerings was not really brought in to the inner chambers. It wasn't dignified, you see, to get blood all over the golden altar. However, the blood was brought inside and sprinkled inside towards the curtain of the Holy of Holies. I mean, how undignified. But this was done for the Kohen Gadol to be forgiven of his sin. Now the Kohen Gadol brought a bull and sprinkled the blood inside towards the inner curtain of the Holy of Holies. That's where the Ark of the Covenant, with the Luchot, were kept inside there. And then very interesting, since it was a sin of the Holy Kohen Gadol, nobody would eat this offering. This bull was entirely burnt, I would say. Entirely burnt outside of Jerusalem. And that brings us to the next type of korban. And this is very impressive. I would say this is very impressive. No nation of the world holds their leaders to such a standard. Look at this. The second offering was the Chatat HaTzibur. If the Sanhedrin, the high court of the land, would make a sin. What kind of sin are we talking here? If they were discussing the Talmudic debates, look at them back there. There they are discussing the Talmudic debates. And they made an error, a grave mistake. And they gave a legal ruling to the Jewish people, permitting them to do something which was in fact wrong. Well, if the entire Jewish nation, or most of the Jewish nation, or most of the tribes, actually committed the sin, each tribe had to bring 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. That's 12 bulls. 12 bulls were brought, 1 bull for each tribe. Pretty amazing stuff. 3 members of the Sanhedrin would come and lean their hands on these bulls and confess that they had made a mistake. And they would bring an offering for the entire community. And the blood, of course, was sprinkled inside towards the inner curtain 7 times on the corners of the inner altar. You know, the golden altar. I must say, those Jews were really special. They were willing to put blood on their golden altar. We would never do this in England. Imagine putting blood on the crown jewels. Oh, that would be so undignified. But the Jewish people understood that they had to be forgiven for the mistakes of their leaders. Why? In my day, if you accuse the leader of making a mistake, off with his head. But the Jewish people, their leaders were made of different stuff, you see. Well, the next type of sin offering, that fellow looks remarkably like me. That is called a melech, a king. Yes, what a beautiful crown. Hey, did you steal that from the crown jewels? Guards. Anyway, the king or the nasi is the head of the Sanhedrin, the high court. If either of them sinned, they brought a male goat, a se'ir izim. So no more bulls now, we're dealing with a male goat. That's right. And they would bring the goat, and the goat was offered as an atonement, as a sin offering, if the king or the nasi, the leader of the high court, violated a sin that would require karet, which is a punishment of being cut off from the Jewish people, and the person would pass away early before the time. And finally, which brings us, old men and old ladies, I would say, old chaps and whatnot, to the last type of sin offering, which is the chatat yachid, the private person sin offering. If a commoner sinned, they would bring a common sheep, and they would bring that sheep. That sheep was either a she-goat or a lamb. It could be either a she-goat or a lamb, and it was brought for any sin that was committed unknowingly and punishable by karet. Those were mostly, marrying the wrong types of people that you're forbidden to marry. Terrible thing. King George, I would never do these type of terrible sins. And if you accuse me of doing these, I would take off your head. King George, please. Thank you. Oh, yes, thank you. Anyway, so the blood was sprinkled on the outer altar 4 times. Since it was a common folk, they would sprinkle it not on the golden altar, they would sprinkle it outside on the copper, a larger altar. Anyway, that has been, I could say. And anyway, I would like to tell you about the events currently in... Okay, King George, thank you very much. We have no more time. Oh, please, I want to talk a little bit more. That's enough, King George. That's already been 9 minutes. Let's take you off in the past. And so, boys and girls and students who are watching this video, we are now watching chapter 4 of Vayikra, which rhymes with door. And we'll tell you a quick silly memory system to remember this. Oh, Rabbi, can I please give them a silly memory system? I've got a good one. Okay, King George, what are you going to do? Oh, 4 rhymes with door. Well, you see, King George carrying a door, and on the door that George is carrying, the door has 4 panels. You see, 1, 2, 3, 4. And there's 4 types of sin offerings, and 4 rhymes with door. The first one, you see, is the Kohen Gadol. The Kohen Gadol on my door. Let's go Kohen Gadol on the door. And the next one, you see, is the 12 bulls of the Sanhedrin, followed by the king's offering and the offering of the regular person. So 4 rhymes with door, and as you can see, there are 4 sin offerings on my door that I am carrying. Isn't that great? King George, thank you very much. Don't forget, boys and girls, that's just a silly story. Of course, you do not have to bring a door in the sin offering. However, there does happen to be 4 places on the door, and there are 4 types of sin offering: the Kohen Gadol, the Sanhedrin, and the Nasi or Melech sin offering, and the private person sin offering. Thank you for watching.